I never thought I'd need security cameras. My neighborhood was quiet, peaceful. One of those places where people took evening strolls without worry and left their doors unlocked without a second thought. My house was nothing special, just a modest one-story with a small porch and a backyard that stretched into a patch of trees. It was the kind of place where nothing ever happened. Until the notes started appearing. The first one showed up on a Tuesday. I found it when I stepped out for work, a crumpled piece of paper lying just inside my front door. It wasn't there the night before. The words were scrawled in uneven, jagged handwriting, the ink smudged like someone had written it in a hurry. "I see you." It sent a chill down my spine. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe some neighborhood kid playing a prank. Maybe it blew in from outside. But something about it felt wrong. That night, I locked my doors and windows before bed, just to be safe. But the next morning, there was another note. This one was different. It wasn't under the door, it was taped to my bedroom window, from the inside. My heart pounded as I peeled it off the glass, my fingers trembling. The same handwriting, but the words were worse this time. I was here. I checked every lock, every inch of the house. Nothing was out of place. No broken windows, no forced doors, but someone had been inside. Someone had watched me sleep. The cameras. I barely got any rest that night. Every sound made my skin crawl. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. The air felt heavier, like something was sitting in the dark, waiting. The next morning, I did the only thing that made sense. I bought security cameras. I set them up in the living room, the hallway, outside the front door, and one in my bedroom, aimed directly at the door. For the first few nights, nothing happened. I checked the footage every morning. Hours of nothing but me tossing and turning in bed, shifting in my sleep. Then came the 5th night. I was scrolling through the footage before bed when something caught my eye. At 3:14 a.m., the hallway camera recorded movement. My bedroom door opened. Slowly, silently, and then someone stepped inside. I felt my breath hitch as I stared at the screen. The figure was tall, dressed in dark clothes, their face obscured by the angle. But what made my skin crawl was how they moved, too smoothly, almost floating. The figure stopped at the foot of my bed and just stood there, watching. I could see myself in the footage, fast asleep, completely unaware. The figure didn't touch me, didn't make a sound. Not like someone shifting in their sleep. No. Not like someone shifting in their sleep. I sat up. No, my head snapped up at an unnatural speed, my body rigid. My eyes were open, but they weren't my eyes. The whites were completely black. I watched in horror as my recorded self turned its head toward the figure. And then, I spoke. The problem was, the cameras had no audio. I watched as my lips moved, forming words I didn't remember saying. The figure slowly reached toward me. And then, the footage glitched. A 4-minute gap. When it resumed, I was lying back down as if nothing happened. The figure was gone. The night the doors opened. That night I refused to sleep. I sat in bed, eyes locked on my laptop screen, watching the live feeds. At exactly 3:14 a.m., the bedroom camera glitched. Then, the hallway camera, static. The front porch camera, static. A faint creak echoed through the house. Then a whisper, right beside my ear. "You let me in?" The bedroom door slammed open. The air turned thick and suffocating like I was underwater. My vision blurred. A deep guttural noise, somewhere between a growl and a distorted voice, rumbled through the house. And then, the lights flickered. For a split second, the shadows in the corners of the room moved. Not like shifting from the light, they moved on their own. Shapes, figures, too many limbs, too many eyes. Crawling, stretching. Then, everything went black. When I woke up, it was morning. The bedroom door was still open, and on the ceiling, carved into the wood, were the words, "You let me in." The final footage I didn't pack. Didn't tell anyone. I just grabbed my keys and left. A week later, out of morbid curiosity, I checked the security cameras remotely. The house was empty, silent, but the cameras were still recording. I clicked on the bedroom feed. My bed was still there, untouched. But someone was lying in it. The figure turned its head toward the camera, and it started when I moved into my new apartment. It wasn't much. A small one-bedroom on the 3rd floor of an old brick building in a quiet part of town. The rent was suspiciously cheap, but I didn't question it. I needed a fresh start. The landlord was a quiet old man, his face pale and wrinkled, and his eyes seemed almost empty. As I signed the lease, he hesitated for a moment. "People don't stay long," he said softly. "Strange things happen." I laughed it off. If strange things meant creaky pipes and flickering lights, I could handle that. The first night was quiet, too quiet. I kept telling myself it was just because I wasn't used to the silence. Back in the city, there was always noise. Cars, voices, sirens. But here, the silence felt heavy, like the building itself was holding its breath. I unpacked a little, made myself some tea, and settled into bed. That's when I heard the tapping. It was faint at first, like someone gently knocking on the wall. I figured it was the pipes, or maybe a neighbor, but the rhythm was too deliberate. 3 slow taps. Pause, 3 more. It sounded like a code. I stared at the wall for a long time, listening. Eventually I fell asleep. The next morning I found the first letter. It was folded neatly and tucked into my mailbox. No envelope, no stamp, just a single sheet of paper with 2 words scrawled across it. "I see you." I stared at it for a long time. Maybe it was meant for someone else. Or maybe it was a prank. Still, I felt uneasy. I looked around, half expecting to see someone watching me, but the hallway was empty. I shoved the letter into my pocket and tried to forget about it. But the tapping didn't stop. Every night, it got louder. Sometimes it would come from the walls, other times from the ceiling. One night, I heard it coming from the floor beneath my bed. I tried everything. Played music, turned on the TV, even stuffed towels under the doors. But nothing drowned out that steady, deliberate tapping. The second letter came 3 days later. This time, it was taped to my front door. "I like the blue sweater you wore today." My blood ran cold. I had worn a blue sweater that morning. The blinds had been closed. How could anyone have seen me? That night, I pushed a chair against the front door and slept with the lights on. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to a soft creaking sound. My heart pounded in my chest as I reached for my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam swept across the room and landed on the mirror. There was something in the reflection. A dark figure stood in the corner of the room. Tall and thin, its face obscured by shadows. I spun around, but the corner was empty. When I looked back at the mirror, the figure was gone. The only thing left behind was a faint handprint, smeared across the glass. After that, things escalated. The shadows moved even when nothing was casting them. The tapping turned into whispers, soft, breathy voices, too low to understand, but loud enough to make my skin crawl. One night, I woke up to find my bedroom door wide open. I was sure I'd locked it. The hallway beyond was pitch black, but I swear I saw something shift in the darkness. The letters kept coming, each one more disturbing than the last. "You shouldn't leave your bathroom light on all night." "I love the way you hum when you cook. I miss you when you're at work." The worst one came a week later. It was taped to my bathroom mirror. "I watch you sleep." That night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat in the corner of my room, clutching a knife, every light in the apartment blazing. Around 3 a.m., the lights started flickering. Then they went out. The darkness was absolute. I fumbled for my phone, but the screen wouldn't turn on. The air grew cold, freezing. I could see my breath, and then I heard it, a low whisper, soft and sickly, like wind slipping through a crack in the wall. It was coming from my closet. Slowly, the door creaked open. I aimed my flashlight into the darkness. The beam flickered and died, and that's when I saw them. 2 pale hands curling around the edge of the doorframe, long, bony fingers, nails black and broken. As the door opened wider, I saw the face, hollow eyes, a mouth stretched into a wide, unnatural grin. It whispered my name. I don't remember screaming. I don't remember running. The next thing I knew, I was outside, barefoot and shaking. The apartment behind me was dark, silent. The police didn't believe me. They said there was no sign of forced entry. But I knew what I saw. I moved out the next day. I didn't care about the deposit. I just wanted to get as far away from that place as possible. But even now, I still hear the tapping. Late at night, when everything is quiet, I feel eyes watching me. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear the whisper. It says, "I found you." I don't know what it was. I don't know if it followed me. But I know this: some things aren't meant to be understood. Some shadows never leave. And no matter where I go, I'll never be alone again. I never thought much about online privacy. Sure, I used the usual precautions: private accounts, two-factor authentication, all the things people say you should do. But I never imagined that someone could be watching me, studying me, waiting. It all started so subtly that I almost missed the signs. I remember the first strange moment. I had posted a picture of my morning coffee at this little cafe I frequented down the street. Within minutes, I got a message from a profile I didn't recognize. It just said, "Nice latte, hope it tasted as good as it looked." I stared at the message for a long time. It could have been innocent, right? Maybe someone else had been at the cafe, seen me, and found my profile. I tried to shake off the unease crawling up my spine, but I couldn't. The next day, it happened again. This time I posted a sunset photo from my evening walk. The same account sent another message. "The sky's beautiful tonight, just like you." That's when I started to feel nervous. I checked the account, but it had no profile picture, no posts, nothing. Just a blank page with a username that felt oddly familiar, though I couldn't place it. Still, I convinced myself it was probably a prank. I mean, I had friends who pulled this kind of stuff before. But then things got stranger. One night, after a long day at work, I came home and posted a quick story about binge-watching horror movies. Almost immediately, the same account sent a message. "Good choice, but you really shouldn't leave your curtains open at night." I froze. My heart raced as I slowly turned toward my living room window. The curtains were drawn, but I swear I could feel someone on the other side, watching. I crept toward the window, barely breathing, and peeked through the gap in the curtains. The street outside was empty, or so I thought. Just as I was about to step back, I saw it, a dark figure standing under the streetlight across the road. They weren't moving, just standing, watching. I didn't sleep much that night. Over the next few days, the messages got more personal. They mentioned my clothes, my hair, what time I left for work. I stopped posting online entirely, but somehow, the messages kept coming. "Red looks good on you. You should lock your back door." I checked the locks every night after that. I even changed them, but no matter what I did, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Then one night, I woke up to a strange noise, a soft tapping like fingers against glass. I sat up, heart pounding, and listened. The room was silent. I told myself it was just the wind until I heard it again. Tap, tap. I turned toward the window, and my heart nearly stopped. There, pressed against the glass, was a handprint. I scrambled out of bed, grabbing my phone and turning on every light in the house. But when I checked the window, the handprint was gone. That's when the nightmares started. I'd wake up gasping, convinced someone was in my room. Sometimes I'd hear whispers, faint and distant, like someone was calling my name from far away. Other times, I'd feel the bed shift, as if someone was sitting on the edge, watching me sleep. The messages grew darker. "I like watching you sleep. You look peaceful when you're dreaming." I went to the police, but they said there was nothing they could do without concrete evidence. I started feeling like I was losing my mind. One night, I came home to find my front door wide open. My heart dropped. I stepped inside slowly, gripping my phone with trembling hands. The house was silent. I moved room to room, turning on lights, checking closets. Nothing seemed out of place. But when I got to my bedroom, I saw it. On my bed was a single Polaroid photo of me, asleep. My window in the background was open, curtains billowing softly. I grabbed the photo with shaking hands, staring at it in disbelief. I was about to call the police when I heard a sound that chilled me to my core. Soft breathing just behind me. I spun around, but the room was empty. I stood there, frozen, heart pounding in my chest. That's when the lights went out. The house plunged into darkness. My phone flickered, then died. Though it had been fully charged, I stood there, paralyzed, listening to the silence. Then, the whispers started. They were faint at first, like a breeze through the trees, but they grew louder, more distinct. My name. Over and over. "Come play. Come find me." The air grew heavy, suffocating. I felt something brush against my arm, icy cold. I stumbled backward, gasping, and ran out of the house. I stayed with a friend after that. I couldn't go back. But the messages didn't stop. My friend's phone buzzed one night. She looked down, confused, and then slowly handed it to me. The message was simple: "You can't hide from me." The police investigated again, but they found nothing. No fingerprints, no signs of forced entry. It was like whoever or whatever had been watching me had simply vanished. I moved to a new city after that, changed my number, deleted everything online. For a while, things seemed normal. The nightmares faded, the shadows didn't feel as dark. I almost convinced myself that it was all in my head, until last night. I woke up to my phone buzzing. A new message. No number, no name, just 5 chilling words.